Three, two, one. Welcome to episode 23 of the Confident Carnivore podcast, where our motto is change your fuel, change your life. Today we have a special guest, our good friend Justin. Hey, Justin.
Hello. All you cool cats and confident carnivores.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Justin is one of our good friends from the Meat Mosaic. He's going to tell you more about what that is. And also from, I know him from meeting him on Tom Clark's YouTube channel, where we do a meaty roundtable discussion every Sunday night religiously. Even on Easter we did one, right?
Even on Easter. You know, we've been running that show for over a year now, essentially weekly. I think there's only one Sunday overall that has been missed. But other than that, yeah, we've been running that show for over a year now. It's been a lot of fun. And for those that don't know, the Meat Mosaic, so Meat Mosaic is more of a concept than it is a set group of people. So the idea is that, you know, we're kind of interchangeable, but the original Meat Mosaic are me, Tom, Emily, Raymond, and Joe Zumbo, our buddy in Australia.
Okay.
So that's kind of how we all came together, and that's who did the original podcast.
Okay, that makes sense, because Raymond kept talking about the Meat Mosaic, and I'm like, what is the Meat Mosaic?
Right. So it started with us, but then, you know, we were having on other guests, you know, Austin, you know, Bella, Neethi, you know, some people, you know, Bart K would be regular. So like the idea is that, you know, there's kind of always like a core member, whether it's me, Tom, Raymond, Joe, you know, Emily, and then someone else, it would be considered part of Meat Mosaic. And so the idea is that you have all these different stories of how they healed with the carnivore diet, keto diets, you know, low carb, etc. And it forms a mosaic, you know, a beautiful picture of all these different stories of all these different people and all the different personalities. And, you know, I'm the youngest and smallest version of Meat Mosaic. I'm the smallest member, standing at 5'7" and like 144 pounds, you know?
Well, you definitely have the most personality in the Meat Mosaic, and you are a hardcore carnivore. So let's see how hardcore you are, Justin. Show us your shoes, please.
Yeah, tonight I'm wearing my carnivore shoes. See, I've got claws to go after my prey. There you go.
You'll be out hunting tonight?
I can be out hunting, exactly, from the rooftops. Jump in, grab myself a nice cow, you know, like a raptor. That's how I do it. Did you know that if you're carnivore long enough, you know, how doctors are like, oh no, your stomach will become too acidic and like you'll burn a hole through like your intestines? No, that's completely false. But what is true is after, you know, once you hit year 3, year 4, year 5, you actually start producing your own acid to where you could spit on your prey and dissolve them. And then you could just hunt easier that way. True's true. It's totally true.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to that upgrade. So I actually, before we show your photos and dive into your personal story, let's start actually this time with your resources, because you are, as we said, a very hardcore carnivore. You're really involved in the community. So let's start with just showing your Instagram page here.
Yeah, so, you know, I mainly try to show off like what I'm eating, you know, grocery trips. So there's some Wendy's, there you go. Shameless plug for Wendy's, the Baconators, you know, but also just some family stuff too. There's me with one of my aunt's dogs, you know. But, you know, I enjoy nature, hiking. Okay, can we stop for a second? So the top right, or I guess on your side might be left, my ghetto meat says. So to the right.
Oh, here, sorry.
Yeah, my ghetto pizzas, which is something that I'm very proud of. So basically, I was at Albertsons and there was this slab of ham. So the crust of the pizza is a slab of ham. And then my roommate at the time was a cook, you know? So he's like, you know what? But he's diabetic. And so he's like, dude, your pizzas look really good, but we gotta kick them up a notch. So on that one, there's bacon, there's chicken, there's ground beef, there's cheese, there's scallops, there's pepperoni. Yeah, we went all out, and we actually made.
Oh, good.
We made 3 that night. One from, I think there's pictures of all 3 somewhere, but in the Instagram. But that's kind of my thing. I call it the ghetto pizza because I just use a slab of ham from Albertsons for the crust, and then I just throw on tons of other stuff. That's it before. Yeah, that's one of the other ones.
Oh, I'm getting hungry just looking at it.
And that's my buddy's. He took that picture.
And there's the pretty thick slab there, huh?
Yeah.
I love it.
And I can only eat like half of it. Usually I'm pretty carnivorous in that all of us.
Here we are. Here's the Tom Clark's channel right there.
Yep. With Bella, Ray, M. Yeah. There's all of us. I always try my best to make sure we're all looking in a different direction. That's a special skill of mine.
Thank you so much for doing that, that extra attention. So yeah, your Instagram page looks really delicious.
And then some tattoos.
Okay, here's Bart.
I love his. I'm trying to get on his show again soon. I've also been on Bart K's show a couple of times as well. Yeah, that is a mug that my sister got me for Christmas. So thank you, Danielle.
Oh.
So that's what's kind of cool about me is I have a semi-supportive family. Well, okay, I'll take that back. I do have a rather supportive family that's carnivore. I mean, that supports me as being carnivore. So I have a sister that was carnivore for, a good while. I'm not quite sure where she's at now. I think she's kind of more low carb. I have another sister that is carnivore after 12 p.m. She loves her juice smoothies in the morning. And then probably the most amazing that I feel best about is my mom is carnivore. So my mom is 71, diabetic, type 2, on a lot of medications. Yeah, she still takes her medications, but she saw a lot, all the health benefits from me, and I sent her some resources and things like that. And yeah, my mom's been roughly 90 to like 95% carnivore for, I think she'll be like almost a year in like June or July, and I was just talking to her the other day. I was like, Mom, are you still carnivore? She's like, yeah, I'm still carnivore. I love it. My mom lost like 30 pounds. So of course that made her happy, and her joints are feeling better and all that stuff. So that's something, that I can take to heart. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I may have, again, with the carnivore diet, there are no promises of extended life, right? I mean, there is no guarantee that we'll live to be 150, maybe, who knows, but, who knows? Maybe I've extended my mother's life, an extra 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. I can't claim that. But at least her quality of life is better. Her diabetes is under control. The doctor says she's doing great. She's lost weight. She has more energy. Her mood is better. Her focus is better, And this is something where I really relate to you, Janice, is having that line of mental illness in the family. Because I grew up with a mentally ill mother and a mentally ill father. And unfortunately, my father's mental illness didn't make it. My father took his life in 2008, and I was 19 years old. And so, I've seen the extreme, how far mental illness goes, and at least my mom's still around, and she's doing better. She's managing better. But, I have a sister that's, also bipolar, that's been in and out of the hospital and things like that. I have another sister that's on depressive meds. My mom's on tons of medication still. Wish she would get off of them. But I know her being carnivore is good enough. And maybe one day, but, I was on psychiatric medication at one point too. And, when I had my attempt, we're talking about a suicidal attempt, I was taking psychotropic medication at the time, and so, I know how dangerous these medications can be, and obviously at this point we have to stop the video and say, hey, if you're on medications, always consult with your doctor before considering coming off psychotropic medications. But, I've been on a few different psychotropic medications, and you feel weird on them. I don't remember if you had been on psychotropics or not, or if you've talked about that.
Yeah, I was on Prozac for about a year, and I did not like the feeling. You do feel different.
Yeah, exactly. And even something like Wellbutrin, which is supposed to be, very, very mild, they prescribe Wellbutrin like candy, and even though I was on an extended release, I couldn't sleep. And it's really, really pernicious, the drug manufacturers and the doctors, although I think I might blame the doctors more, just because, you take one thing for the depression, then you can't sleep. Next thing I know, I'm on trazodone. And the next thing you know, you're on something else and then something else, because it's like, oh, you're having this side effect. Then to mitigate with that, they give you another prescription. So the next thing you know, in a year's time, you start out with being prescribed one thing and you end up with 5, 6, 7 medications, to just try and manage, and so, yeah. The whole mental illness thing, I'm right there with you. And I'm happy to say I've been off medication for several years now. But
Wow.
carnivore plus off medication, I feel the best than I've ever been.
Wow. And well, let's let folks know, Justin, how old you are and then how long you've been carnivore, so we can trace back a bit to how you even got to carnivore. So let's see.
So that's right out here.
You're 31. Sorry, let's just make sure you're 31 and you've been carnivore since April 2019, right?
Correct. So roughly at the end of this week, I'll have crossed over. I think on Sunday, I count the 17th as 2 years. So on the 17th, wow, this Sunday will be my carniversary, 2 years carnivore.
Congrats. And can you tell us how you ended up finding carnivore?
Yeah. So for that story, I need you to scroll down to the car.
Okay.
Yeah. So this car accident is from March 22nd of 2019. And so as you can see, pretty bad hit, right? I was on the 57 South going to work, and I got hit by a Ford Explorer, basically, and I was driving a 2010 Toyota Corolla. That Explorer had a few pounds on me, let's say. And that was a mess. So I actually hit the truck that was in front of me. He hit me so hard, even though I was already at a dead stop. So the car was totaled. I had just actually bought that car from a friend, and I was driving it for 6 months before that happened.
Wow.
Anyway, so I'm like 30 then at that point, roughly. Yeah. And, so let's take it way back. I was a sick kid, and not just mentally, like now, I'm a sick adult, but only in the head. I was a sick kid in that, pediatric asthma, really bad asthma attacks, having to use like a breathing machine and stuff like that. Ear infections, throat infections all the time, constantly having to do antibiotics. I got, although stuff got really bad after puberty and around puberty, a lot of stomach issues. I had gastritis. I was getting chronic sinus infections. My sinuses were so bad that just a sneeze would just be like a mile of green snot. It almost was like Spider-Man with like his webs, except it was like snot from my nose. I particularly this one time in middle school, I was talking to this cute chick, you know what I mean? I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper and I sneeze and like the green snot just shoots like into my Dr. Pepper. And it's like, yeah, that's it's not really going anywhere. It's still not the most attractive, look. So I dealt with that, a lot of, constantly on antibiotics, all throughout high school, middle school. I mean, I couldn't go 6 months without going to urgent care and getting antibiotics, basically, for some kind of infection or something like that, and I was on the Flonase and I was doing the sinus rinse and all that stuff, right? But but I was still getting them. You know, one time I got like, I think 7 or 8 sinus infections in a year, you know.
Oh my God.
It would be so much that I'd walk into the doctor's office and I'd be like, listen, it's a sinus infection. Just give me, you know, amoxicillin, 500 milligrams,
Oh,
a 3-week, you know, series of it, and I'll be okay. And then I'd have doctors that would be like, oh, no, we can't tell yet. It's too early. So then they would end up giving me like a 1 week prescription of amoxicillin. And
yeah.
then I would take that, and then I'd be sick in their office again within like 6 weeks.
Oh,
So I was dealing with that, throat infections. I think I even caught mono at one point. You know, missed tons of school, you know, because I was constantly sick. And yeah, it was a bad time. Stomach stuff, gastritis was horrible. And then, you know, at age 20, the migraine started. I specifically remember it was October, and I had just got hired to work at a Halloween store. And it was the day I was supposed to start, the night before. I just had the worst headache I ever had in my life. It was just like I couldn't shake it. I couldn't sleep that night. I ended up calling the place and being like, hey, I know it's my first day, but I have like the worst headache of my life. I have to go to the doctor. You know what I mean? Now, I already knew that I had a couple of sisters with migraines. So like I talked to my sister. She's like, yeah, it sounds like a migraine. I ended up going to the urgent care. They're like, well, we can't give you anything strong yet because we don't know what it is. You have to go see a neurologist. So they gave me like Tylenol 3, the Tylenol with codeine, and I took the entire bottle and just passed out. Basically is what I did. I woke up feeling a bit better the next day, went to see a neurologist, got put on a weird med that's supposed to prevent migraines. And then I got put on Maxalt for the migraines. It was a dissolvable, you know? But I was taking Maxalt basically every other day. So you're only allowed 9. So those that don't know with migraines, the migraine medication is actually addictive. And it's actually really bad for the body, neurologically. But mine were, I was having them chronically, like every other day I would get a migraine. Like I was non-functional, you know, I couldn't do anything. And so, you know, I eventually, you know, I'm like, okay, this can't be good for me. I can't function this way, you know? And I talked to the neurologist and she's like, well, here's like, you know, the migraine diet, which is like no nuts, you avoid histamines, you know, and that kind of helped. Because basically I was running out of medication all the time, but also she told me if you keep taking it like this, the level of migraine medication that you're taking, you will end up with chronic seizures by age 40.
Oh my God.
From the medication. So I was like, well, that's not in a better place, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll try something else. So I end up doing the diet, and that kind of helps. You know what I mean? I end up, you know, going to see a naturopath, and she puts me on a diet that was like a paleo. Basically, I went paleo. And this was, I want to say like 2014, roughly, I was paleo. And so, you know, I wasn't doing dairy. I was, you know, just doing a lot of the typical paleo stuff. And I was taking like 14 supplements. I was doing fish oil, magnesium, like B vitamins, like just, and it was expensive. It was like $150 like every other month for all these different supplements. But with those, I only got a migraine about once a week, which was 1,000 times better than every other day. And I was still taking, but you know, once a week, I was still taking the rescue medication, sumatriptan at this time, because I had to change insurance. And oh, that's right. So the migraine medication, once I switched to more the generic, the sumatriptan 50 milligrams, I was getting horrible stomach pains and like acid reflux, really, really bad. So it was like destroying my gut. basically, or something was going on. And so I hated taking the medication. The way you're instructed to take rescue migraine medication is to take it as soon as the migraine starts. But me and every other migrainer I know waits until you can't take it anymore, because once you take the migraine medication, you're still not functional. You're just not in pain, you know? It's go knockout time, you know, in a dark room. But the stomach pains were getting so insanely bad, like just wicked bad. Um, and so they were just, you know, horrible. And so that's why I went the more, you know, holistic route and all that stuff. And like I said, the paleo thing kind of helped, but I was still taking the sumatriptan once a week. In the middle of this, so on top of this as well, I'm still having sinus infections, you know, and I'm having them to where I get, you know, the ear, nose, and throat specialist, and they actually take everything out of, I had the sinus surgery, and they took everything out of my sinus cavity. So I'm kind of busting like a Michael Jackson here. I hope one day my nose just doesn't like fall off, because there's nothing inside. It's completely hollow inside. Yeah, they
took it out.
Yeah, they took out my sinuses. Yeah, they were that bad. Yeah. And so, and then I was promised that, like, oh, after the surgery, we promise you won't get sinus infection. This is like the last stop, the last resort, you know? 6 weeks after getting sinus surgery, I get a sinus infection, and I'm like, what the hell? How is this possible? I don't even have sinuses anymore. But I guess the membranes are still in there, and they were getting inflamed. So the doctor looked at me and he goes, unfortunately, you're just one of those people that we're going to have to cycle on and off antibiotics every 6 weeks. And by this time, I had known how bad antibiotics were, you know, for the gut and for everything. So I was told him, no way, I'll find another way. So yeah, that's how bad my sinus infections were, that I got sinus surgery to remove everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah, while getting migraines.
This is so heartbreaking, just that these are all of your young years, that you're just like a mess. I mean, you can't even function.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much couldn't hold a job, you know, constantly calling in sick. I could muddle through online classes, you know, thank God online classes were starting up then, because there's no way I could do on campus. You know, I couldn't function, you know, I was exercise intolerant. You know, friends calling me, okay, I'm going to try and hang out, you know, but I would be really bad. So I would go to work. I would, if I know I would get a migraine at work. So I would bring my medication. I would take medication while driving to go hang out with friends, and then hope that the medication kicked in and I was good by the time I got to a friend's house or to a party or something. And then, you know, while I'm under the influence of the medication, I would drink. You know, I'd be taking shots, or I'd be drinking beers or whatever, you know, because I'm young and I want to party, you know?
Yeah.
And so which you're not supposed to do, obviously, right? But I just kind of was like, well, it's either I let this stop me from doing everything, or I completely destroy my body by mixing, you know, medications and alcohol or whatever, you know.
Wow. And what was your personality like during all these years? Because I only know you as being like carnivore Justin, just like, you know, exuberant and full of energy all the time. And really, I mean, what were you, is this kind of part of your just normal personality, even with all that suffering? Or
well, I mean, I think like a lot of people, humor helps. You know, it's either you laugh or you cry. You know, I had really, really, really dark days, don't get me wrong. And you know, my choice in music is like Slipknot, Korn, Slayer, you know, the really heavy, really, really dark stuff, you know, death metal, black metal, and all that stuff, you know, and which sucks because I'm a migrainer that loves to crank up those guitar solos and stuff, you know, and those drum solos, right? And so taking away the music, you know, and you know, to having to bring medication to music festivals, you know, Ozfest and stuff like that, you know, or just drink myself to where I don't feel like a headache or whatever, you know. And so, yeah, so there is a lot of darkness. I think just for some reason, and maybe I don't know, just that, nothing's going to stop me. I know there's a way out of this. I just have to find it. And so, with the paleo thing, I did more plant-based as well. I had a girlfriend at the time that went vegan. We did juice cleanses together and stuff like that as well. But they didn't really help the migraines. It's kind of like, I mean, you are plant-based, so but it's kind of like a faux feeling better, where it's like, you're told that you should feel better doing the juice cleanse, or by, having eating the rainbow and doing your kale and all that stuff, right? But if you were to really sit down, I was like, I don't really feel better, nothing's really changing for me. So I did that for a while as well with the paleo, trying to go paleo vegan, which is, my God, if you want a torturous existence, go paleo vegan, because it's just like, oh, you want a baked good, you want the, it's like, it's madness, and if you want really expensive grocery bills and to be really hungry, go paleo vegan. Basically organic paleo vegan, because it had to be organic too. You had to go to the farmer's market every Saturday morning, and so yeah, just madness. So done all that, I've done all that. Anyway, I guess we'll finally get to the car accident, right? Car accident happens. Now you got to remember, at this point on paleo, kind of more plant-based, but I'm muddling along. I'm able to get through school. I'm able to hold down a job, all this stuff. I'm muddling through, and after the car accidents, the migraines just flare back to how they were originally. I'm getting them, basically every other day again, or at least a couple times a week. And so I'm basically back to being non-functional. And now, my neck is messed up and my back hurts and all kinds of stuff because car accident, right? And so I have to take a year off from everything. I had to quit my job, had to quit my internship, as a marriage and family therapist. And it's a bad time. I've been living the quarantine lifestyle since 2019 because I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. So my car was destroyed and my body was destroyed.
We got to get out of the house, Justin.
Right. So I'm like, okay, I need to do something because I'm non-functional again. I've worked too damn functional to become marginally functional, And so I start Googling and stuff, and I end up finding the work of Angela Stanton, who wrote a book called Ending the Migraine Epidemic. And her book, her big thing is SALT, that actually what migraines are is they're a neurotransmitter disease and an electrolyte imbalance. So basically, as you can tell, I'm a little more hyper, a little more talkative, a little more, kind of ramped up mentally, right? Than the typical average person. And so, migrainers, and this isn't a brag, this is nothing like that. This is literally researched. We kind of have more of a V8 under here, and so we burn through sodium like crazy because sodium is a necessary electrolyte for the neurons to jump, and basically one of the things that happen is the brain starts to starve for the sodium. It's not there. Now, of course, carbohydrates also interact poorly with the sodium in the body. And so it actually depletes sodium, but when you eat electrolytes. Sorry, when you eat carbohydrates, I apologize. When you eat the carbohydrates. And so, and it inflames the body and all that stuff, which we know. And so basically it starts that the brain is starving for sodium. It's out of balance. The neurons get blocked basically because they can't jump because there's not enough sodium for them to jump, and then starts the inflammation in the brain and then eventually migraine. So that's her big discovery, which anyone that's watched our podcast, I'll occasionally, have a couple different cups. It's usually because it's salt water so that I can keep my brain fueled with sodium, you know. And her book, you know, gets rid of the carbs and has you, you know, it's a very intense program, the Angela-Statin. Now, a year prior to this, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peterson, as I know you are as well. You know, so I'd heard about Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson and the Carnivore Diet. So it was already like in the back of my head, Carnivore Diet. But when you're struggling with migraines and you're as sick as I am, and I was marginally functional, you're scared to mess with that. So I wasn't, you know, I was like, okay, I started eating more meat, but I was, I was doing like chicken nuggets and ketchup to like increase my meat. You know what I mean? It's like, no, sorry, darling. Like, sorry, hon, that ain't gonna cut it, you know? Because I did it, I was too stupid to actually like Google carnivore diet, of course. But Angela Statin has her own Facebook group. And in there, I started seeing people talk about CD. Oh, I'm doing CD. Can I do CD? And I was like, what the hell? I was seeing CD and ZC, right? Oh. And I was like, what the hell are they talking about? What the hell is CD, ZC? Of course, right? You know what I'm talking about. Carnivore diet and zero carb. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'll just do that, you know, because like I already know what that is. I love meat, like, you know, there's no problem there. So that's when I started, you know, carnivore, and I think I was keto for like a week, you know, but I couldn't hit my macros, and it was really weird. And you know, I think like a lot of people, it sounds weird to you and it's very foreign, and you feel like you need that variety. So at first I was cooking steaks with mushrooms and zucchini and squash, you know, the low carb, low inflammation vegetables. And then I just started cooking and eating the steaks, and my mushrooms and my zucchini went bad in the fridge, and I just stopped buying it because I was like, oh, they're just rotted. You know what I mean? I'm just eating the steaks now. Wow. And so yeah, and then it's kind of just been like that since. I mean, yeah, it's just been straight carnivore, and I've been loving it, and I can work out now. I'm kicking ass. You know, speaking of confident carnivores, you know, I got a job. You know. In July of last year, which is really, really nice. And so, yeah, that's kind of me now. You know, a picture like that, you know, you wouldn't have caught me in a picture like that, you know, years ago. I would have been more chubby. You know, I'm not one of those people that really posts a lot of pictures of me because my physical transformation is really not that. I don't think it's really that spectacular. I'm one of those lucky, unlucky ones in that I've always been thin. You know, I think at my heaviest, I was like 155 pounds, you know, which do I know a lot of people, you know, I'd walk in the doctor's office. They're like, oh, you're so thin. You know, everywhere I go, oh, you're so thin. You're so thin. My blood work was always stellar. So nothing there, you know, but I felt terrible, you know, depression, anxiety, migraine, sinus infections, but standard physical, I was as healthy as they could see. And the way I put it to people is like, this is why I don't really believe a whole lot in tests, you know, of getting blood tests or ketones or anything like that. Yeah, I did it in the beginning and stuff like that. Because to me, like, I had stellar bloods, right? No diabetes, nothing like that. You know, all that time I felt horrible, right?
Right.
But I can't take that blood work into a job interview or on a date, or to go hang out with friends and be like, look how healthy I am. Oh, can I call out? Or, oh, I have to miss this, right? So that piece of paper that says you're healthy, pretty much worthless on your day to day. You know, it was to me, it said I was great, but I felt terrible. Wow. And you know, the last time I did bloods, I think was in 2020 of April, and everything was fine. I think a couple things were a little high, but again, I don't care. You know, I really, really don't care because I had stellar bloods, you know, and everything before, and I felt like garbage.
Yeah. And so how quickly did your symptoms, I mean, like the sinus infections, the migraines, the digestive issues, how did that resolve on carnivore?
Yeah, so the digestive stuff, I want to say cleared up pretty quickly, you know. as you know, the plant-based diet is the daily diarrhea diet, right? It's like every time you go, it's like, like just like, like, oh man, I got to scrub the toilet down 3 times and I think I need a shower. So, once you get through the transition, my first month of carnivore was god awful, but you got to also understand I was also recovering from a car accident. And so, but I had a straight migraine for a month straight, and I was sleeping like 2-hour naps a day. With my transition, my first month was horrible. You know what I mean? But again, transitioning from paleo to carnivore plus car accident, I think it's rather understandable. But I had a horrible time. Now, a lot of times people are like, well, what made you keep going? It's like, it started really, really slowly where I remember towards the end of that first month I had like an hour or two where I felt good, like genuinely good, like a dark cloud had lifted, like, I still kind of had some body pain and all that stuff, but like emotionally, energetically, at like a deeper core level, I felt good. And I specifically remember this 1 to 2 hours. And I was like, whoa, that's different. That is definitely different. And then that 1 to 2 hours turned into 4 hours. Then it turned to 6 hours. Then it turned to 8 hours. Then it turned to half a day. And then it turned to an entire day. And it just kind of kept going, then it turned to a week where I felt good, and then a month, you know what I mean? And it was that gradual and it was that slow. And it literally, I can remember the days and weeks like freshly in my mind because they stood out, because I was probably chronically severely depressed since age like 11.
Oh,
you know?
You didn't even know.
I didn't even know.
What life would be like.
Right, exactly.
So you were already 30 then by the time.
Correct.
By the time you experienced your first glimpse of actual happiness and well-being.
Right.
Oh
yeah, exactly. And having actual real energy, and motivation, cleaning and just normal stuff, just it's hard, it's indescribable to people. I don't even know, and then it, kept carrying on and yeah, I would still get the migraines, but a part of the statin protocol is you quit your medications cold turkey. Well, you quit the migraine medications cold turkey. Let me rephrase that. But I still kept them around, and the last time I actually took a rescue med, a migraine med, is I flew up to, San Francisco to visit some family. And, it was hot. I was out of my element. It was exciting. I wasn't getting the best of sleep because I'm visiting family and it's vacation and it's party and all that stuff, So July 5th of 2019 was the last time I took a migraine medication. Wow. And I threw away all my migraine medication July of 2020. So I'm flying without it now, and I've been flying without it for a year. But in between that time, interesting things would happen. Like I would get a migraine and the pain would be there, but I would still have energy, focus, and motivation. I was just in pain, but the pain wouldn't be as severe as before either. So like I have friends, me and a friend joined a gym together when I was still living in California. And he was a night owl. So he'd hit me up at like 10 o'clock to go work out. It's like 10 p.m. And I had a migraine. And I was like, but I felt fine. Like everything else felt fine. So I went to go work out with a migraine. And I worked out for like an hour and a half. You know what I mean? No, it probably wasn't my best, but then I was fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and then I remember another migraine. It lasted through the night and I kind of woke up with one, and it was when the Joker movie came out and I really wanted to go see the movie. So I just got up with a migraine and went to go see the Joker movie. And by the end of the movie, my migraine was gone. So I knew I was healing. Like that's different, And so just weird things like that, which you talk to any other migrainer, that's like impossible. You talk to a neurologist, they'll tell you that's impossible.
Wow.
Yeah. And it just kind of, and they've been decreasing. So the last bad one I had was, so those that I've already kind of talked about it, but so I recently relocated from Southern California to Springfield, Missouri. Now that is a 2,300-mile drive, roughly. And I did it on my own, and I did it without coffee. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. No caffeine. I pretty much survived solely on jerky from Tom the entire time, basically. But there was a really, really rough day. It was the second day of my trip, and I drove for like 10 hours. I technically drove for 11 hours. And at the end of that 11 hours, I had a pretty bad migraine. I grabbed a hotel, and the hotel reeked of cigarettes.
Oh no.
Now, normally, anyone that has migraines out there, if you were to walk and even pass by somebody smelling a cigarette or cigarette smoke, it's like a dial. It would just dial up the migraine, right?
Ooh.
Hotel room reeked of cigarette smoke. Other than it was a nice room, -2 stars for reeking of cigarette smoke, right? And I was like, I'm going to sleep. Like, I just have no choice. I'm exhausted. I have to get up. I have a trip I need to finish. I'm going to power through this. So I actually fell asleep in a room with a migraine, with cigarette smoke, woke up the next morning, still had some of the pain. And I just went for it. And by the time, I'd say around afternoonish of that day, the migraine was gone. So they just go away on their own now. You know what I mean? I don't even have to put myself in a dark room or lessen my stress or avoid anything. They just go away,
And so now you're able to work without having that impact your ability to obviously function, right? You can work out, you can continue on with your business even when in pain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just pain. And the best part, and again, speaking to the migrainers that may or may not listen to this, something about knowing that it's going to resolve is, instead of it dragging on for 3 days, because a typical migraine without rescue medication, even with it sometimes, you're looking at being incapacitated for a day, 2 days, 3 days, 3.5 days, and now I know, okay. And the thing is that, it really simplifies it, because when you're doing the whole, migraine diets that are out there, you have to keep track of all this stuff. And it's like, crap, is it the sleep I didn't get? Was it that thing that I ate that I thought it, didn't have this, but it actually did? Or, there's a lot of guesswork. Whereas now, if I get a migraine, it's like, the last 48 hours, okay, my sleep kind of sucked. That kind of happened at work. I didn't do my salt. I pushed it, it kind of, food, it's like, okay, I eat the same thing. I'm doing my beef. That hasn't changed. So there's no mystery with the food anymore. Now I can really focus more on stress or sleep, and now when I do get a migraine, it's really simple. It's like, okay, I need either beef, sleep, or salt. Wow. That's it. It's super simple, right?
But it's interesting, because looking at your pictures, it seems like, you have a pretty good variety that you can eat on carnivore. You're not like you have to stick to 100% beef, right? I mean, you're obviously eating your funny pizza. So that's kind of nice, right? I mean, it's not like you're totally restricted and you only can do like beef and salt, right?
Yeah, which is really, really funny, because there's that meme or that diagram that's like, lion diet, strict carnivore, and then it's like carnivore plus dairy. It's like, whoa, the carnivore that I can do is the most relaxed one. It's like, I've never been able to be the most relaxed anything, because I do cheese, I do milk,
the dairy doesn't trigger the migraines then?
No. And so that's, so Angela's take on that is, well, for some reason, generally migraines do really, really good with milk. And interesting thing about milk is that its ratio potassium to sodium is actually a perfect ratio for the brain. Yeah, which is, you're talking about 1.8 or 2. times more potassium to sodium. Yeah,
Now,
when it
what
comes to
about
food.
like cured meats, like things that contain like nitrates and nitrites and stuff? Are those triggers?
So no, those don't seem to bother me either anymore. The nitrates are way overblown, and Angela Staton has a whole thing about that, which I won't get into here. But nitrates are really actually nothing to worry about.
Oh,
Let's just put it that way. But what is to worry about in the cured meats is the high sodium.
okay.
You know, so it might throw some migraineurs completely out of balance. Now, of course, I must stop here for a second and say there's a lot of people that also disagree with Angela Staton's approach. There is a lot of research there, but it's a working hypothesis as well, you know. And there's the Migraine Miracle book, which I haven't read, which I really should, which supposedly, and I believe it, is curing migraineurs with, I believe, like a high fat keto approach.
Okay.
I know other people that had really bad migraines that just going carnivore without messing with salt and all that stuff, their migraines resolved as well. And so, but the key here is as a keto carnivore, getting rid of the carbs does really, really help.
And the plants, right?
And the plant, yeah, a lot of plant. But there are, you know, migraineurs that do great with avocado. I'm one of those that doesn't do so great with avocado. Not that I necessarily get a stomach pain, but I get like stomach issues with avocado.
It's interesting though that you found the most food freedom with in carnivore, right? I mean, because before you couldn't really do much. And so you're doing salt, but do you take any other supplements now?
Yeah, so I do a B1 because I really, really love the work of Elliot Overton, and Angela Staton herself actually recommends a B1. I do magnesium because magnesium, again, you know, the potassium, the magnesium, the calcium, they all work in conjunction.
Okay.
And so if one is off, you know, you either have like malabsorption or you're shooting or expelling too much of another one, right? So I do magnesium, I do magnesium thornate, and I do magnesium glycinate powder when I remember to take it. And I do iodine. I've been doing that for years though, so that's just something I've been keeping, you know what I mean? I don't really do, magnesium. That's pretty much it. I'm trying to remember, which is really, really good for me. I know a lot of carnivores are either anti-supplement and stuff. I'm a recovering supplement junkie, so please lay off me. Or you know what, send me your hate mail. It's fine. Because I used to be like all the supplements. The more of everything I take, the healthier I'll be. You know what I mean?
You didn't cancel your Lucky Vitamin subscription then.
I canceled that one and I just kind of started my own. And, you know, when I started carnivore, I was a huge fan. I was a fanboy of a particular carnivore MD that's all about meat and organs. So I've done those as well, you know, in the beginning. And I do them, I don't do them. You know what I mean? If I'm like, I really, really, really want to spend $60 and not, you know, then I'll buy a bottle. You know what I mean? Yeah. Basically is where I'm at with that. But, you know, I feel like for me, it makes a little more sense just because of my history. I'm probably malnourished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think I have extra issues than the average person or the average.
A lot of healing to still do. And
yeah.
Now, so you mentioned that some migraineurs do the high fat keto. So, but you don't really have to worry about your macros then. You can kind of just eat whatever mix of fat and protein, or.
I try to worry about my macros, but I'm really bad at it. You know, so on my Instagram, there's some raw fat that I picked up, you know, and I've been trying to munch on that every day, basically, you know. But I don't, you know, I tracked at the beginning, but I feel fine, so I don't really track anymore. You know what I mean? My favorite cut is actually New York strips or New York steaks, which I know is kind of odd. I love ribeyes, don't get me wrong. And I know New Yorks are something like 30% fat to protein, so it's very, very low. And I get it. I don't have a lot of body fat on me, but I do cook in a lot of butter, in my glass containers that I hold my food in, that's in the fridge, I always scrape the fat at the bottom and add it to whatever I'm eating, but I'm not measuring that. I don't know where I'm in with that. Do I feel better, higher fat? Yeah, I usually have like a little better energy. But as far as like mental health issues or the headaches, I don't really notice a huge difference. I mean, my staples are generally ground beef with cheese, because I can't do ground beef alone because I just can't do the taste.
Yeah.
With butter, New York steaks or ribeye steaks. That's basically what I eat 87% of the time,
Nice. Now, so we never really talked about when you were growing up and having all of these problems. Were you just on the standard American diet, or what were you eating?
Yeah, I mean, standard American diet. It was really, really weird. My dad hated vegetables, but he liked, of course, sweets and carbs, So like he was quarter of the way there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, yeah, standard American. Well, what's really, really funny is I basically didn't eat a salad until like age 17, when I got with my girlfriend, and she's like, you have to eat salads, So, but I ate a lot of potatoes, of course, ice cream, Oreos, all that, the sugar, but I was never, but I was also that kid that would go to all the store, on Halloween would go to all the houses, and my bag of candy would sit and rot. You know what I mean? So I wasn't like a sugar addict or anything. Yeah, I liked my Oreo cookies and cream, but I was having sugary cereal, but I would often also skip breakfast, because I distinctly remember as puberty started, eating breakfast would make me want to vomit, or I would vomit in the morning, which I think now is like called cyclical vomiting. It's like an actual condition. And I had that as a young teen, as a preteen or whatever, but I didn't know what it was until recently. I had a conversation with Angela, actually, and she brought it up. So I had weird stuff going on, very, very young, that I remember now. So yeah, basically high carb, high sugar. Meat was there, generally, but it was like pork chops, it was the lean cuts and things like that. Not a lot of steaks, or not fatty steaks, And so, so I guess I have to go back into, my household and how I grew up. So my parents split when I was very, very young. So I grew up in dual households. My mom worked. My dad, was an addict, okay, and unstable. So meals were unstable. It was a lot of frozen foods, Marie calendars, chicken pot pies, pizza, McDonald's, fast food, the kids' cuisine with the penguin on it, that stuff, the Hosters cupcakes, so just, no concern, no thought about nutrition at all, which is weird, because my mom's like a huge health nut, and my mom's worked out since I can remember, and my mom still works out. My mom still to this day gets up and does a 2-hour cardio workout every morning, and she's done that since I can remember. But she was a big salad woman. She was the salad, and she'd get me, the double bacon cheeseburger or whatever, and I was a picky eater. I was considered a picky eater because I hated vegetables. So, okay, order him the cheeseburger, but no tomatoes, no onion, all
your
that.
instincts were right on that about the vegetables early on. So, but I keep thinking back to, okay, so before you went to the functional medicine doctor, nobody's mentioned diet, right?
No.
This whole time when they're giving you all these meds.
No.
Wow.
No, diet was never mentioned. I don't remember ever being asked about what I eat. No one ever did glucose. No one ever did any of those tests. I did an allergy test, not a food allergy test, and all that came up was mold.
Oh,
And they're like, "Oh, mold is everywhere, so this is useless." And I was like, "Oh, thank you for having me test for no reason. Awesome, love the typical medical system. Be huge props."
wow. Now, okay, you mentioned that, so you went carnivore basically at age 30. So you've got 3 decades of, and then you said suddenly you're willing to take a picture of yourself, you're willing to look at yourself in the mirror. And how did that shift for your kind of self-concept go for you?
Yeah, I mean, I like me. Like that's just the plainest way I feel comfortable in my own skin now. You know, I feel like I'm of value to people, society, et cetera. You know, even though, you know, other people have given me little compliments and things like that. And, you know, my friends, you know, they've stuck through me, you know, for decades and things like that. And, you know, I was always social enough, you know, it was mainly just being in pain, um, mental illness, the migraines, medications that was just it put up a wall, you know, kind of like an artificial wall to the confident carnivore, right? That is before you, and it is becoming ever more confident. So my move, right? You know, 3, 4 years ago, this would have been impossible. You know, for me to make this move, you know, especially by myself, especially having to do all the cognitive step-by-step stuff you have to do to organize and move, right? It's not like, well, I mean, some people, I suppose, if you have the financial resources, can just fly and have everything packed and all that stuff. I'm not rich. I don't have those kind of financial resources. So I had to move on a budget, and I had to move on a timetable, you know, because I got to go back to work so that I can make rent. That's the game, you know? And so if I wanted to do this, I had to make it happen. And there were stumbling blocks, don't get me wrong. And the thing about carnivore is that when you have a bad day, you're able to get through it. It's not a complete and total life-ruining catastrophe. Whereas before carnivore, every little event that happened was an absolute catastrophe. You know, my life before carnivore always felt like it was 10 times harder or up to 100 times harder than everyone else's life.
Wow.
So
And it sounds like
everything
it was. I mean, that's not an exaggeration to feel that way, right? I mean, wow.
everything felt like an extra struggle. Nothing ever went my way. Um, you know, everything. I always just felt like I had to work harder. I had to outthink, outfeel. You know, just everything just felt harder. I'm not saying that it was. I know there's people that have a rougher time than me. You know. But to me, living that, and another thing too is when you're that sick, you feel like you're the only one that is sick. And that is so isolating and so lonely. Yeah, my ex had a few issues. I had some friends with some rheumatoid arthritis, and I have another friend with type 2 diabetes. But you can kind of function with that, you know, no insult to anyone.
You're not in crippling pain all the time where you literally have to lay in a dark room and just be miserable, you know.
With shooting snot, you know, the green snot from the sinus infections. Right, exactly. And I do want to take this second just to talk about the sinus infections. So I have gotten sick a couple of times since carnivore. So I did get a sinus infection, I want to say December of 2019. Yes, December of 2019. And I got a sinus infection in July of 2020. Now, but this time, no green snot. And I was able to kind of just through salt water and a couple other things recover in like a week and a half. I didn't even take work off. I didn't even have to
Wow.
stop doing anything. I think I still hit the gym with the sinus infection, it just had
Wow.
like the pressure that was annoying. And that was basically it. Since then, I haven't had anything. I haven't been sick. I really, really haven't. I know there's a lot of people that are concerned about, the beer virus that is going around.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I'm really not, I'm metabolically healthy. I've driven halfway across the country, right? And I've talked to tons of strangers, not to mention getting gas and touching that, the gas pump, right? And not being able to wash my hands. And I've been fine,
Well, in 2 years, right? I mean, you're hitting 2 years, so it's like I would imagine that over time, once you heal completely, you're not even going to have to contend with any migraine pain. I mean, I would think that's where you're heading, or any sinus infections, hopefully.
Right. In theory, I mean, that's what's so cool about this, right? Is how healthy can we actually get? That's the new level. And a lot of carnivores that do like extended fasting, or the what, one ribeye a day, the OMAD and stuff like that. Now that we've reached healthier than we've ever been, it's like what's the next step? How healthy can we? What's optimum? How much more confident? How much more? This level of health, because it's like, man, this seemed impossible. So now it's like, what's the next level of impossible? And just reaching for that, and I think that's really cool. Now I am, obviously I study mythos, and so Icarus, flying too close to the sun as well. How much can we really push our luck sometimes? But at the same time, I don't think fasting or OMAD will make you as sick. Like there's somewhere in our mind, I feel like we get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm never gonna be that sick again. And if I do something and I mess up, I know how to get back to
Right.
here. And that's so important. Like we have that safety net of, we remember this of where we are now.
Right.
And so it's like, even if I do mess this up a little bit, I know how to get right
Right.
back.
Get back on track. So, how was it when once you realized like this is it? Was it hard for you to look back and know that you spent 3 decades of your life and your youth basically? Did you have to reckon with that, or were you just like, thank God I found, the magic formula, and the rest of my life is going to be much better than it's ever been?
Yeah, so that's there's two parts. One, it really helps that in the Meat Mosaic, I'm the youngest. And so you guys are all jealous of me because I found it a decade earlier than all of you, you
Right.
know. So that's like, okay, I'm still early, and so all
Right.
of you, it's interesting because I feel like all of you in a way watch me because I'm younger, because it's like, I know you guys are kind of, well, maybe you're not, but like, damn, if I was at 30 and I had
Oh,
found
yeah.
this, how much more different would my life have been? And so I'm trying
Yeah,
to
but we
live
didn't,
that.
I don't think we suffered. I mean, maybe some of us, but I certainly wasn't in that magnitude of suffering, like physical and mental. I mean, I had like, yeah, some physical symptoms, some and significant mental, but I didn't have just this like crushing, like you had,
And
or you
carpal tunnel
could
at
have.
one point too.
Oh my
I'll throw that in there. Anyway.
So, but that's okay. So there's that piece that you feel like you're kind of like younger. So that's a bonus, right? You're a decade plus younger than most of us, right? So,
And the other part, I guess, could be called a carnivore rage. Rage at the standard American diet, rage at the standard nutrition, rage at even my naturopath who I paid $200 an hour. You know what I mean?
oh,
To get me marginally better. That's a lot of anger. You're angry at family, you're angry at society, you're angry at nutritionists, you're angry at all those doctors. That's why I avoid the doctor like a plague, because I literally saw a doctor at least every 6 months, if not every
oh,
3 months, from age 5 to age 23 roughly, until when I gave up on them because they weren't helping, and all I did is get worse. you know, it was just a
they
decline.
made you worse by prescribing you all those medications and antibiotics. So many courses of antibiotics had to wreck your, and maybe that's why the migraines came through, because maybe you had finally just sort of destroyed your microbiome or something. I'm just thinking, like, because you said they came on later compared to all the other stuff you were having.
Right, exactly. So who knows how it all shakes out. And so, but I feel like it's important to process that rage. And that's why I do speak out. And me as someone, so those that don't know, I am in the mental health profession. And that's why I'm torn. Because at the one hand, it's my passion. I love doing therapy. I love counseling people. I love conversations. I love one-on-one. But the last times I've done therapy, I feel like I'm hogtied, because I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist. And so if I talk about, carnivore diet with clients in a prescriptive manner, there goes my license. There goes being a therapist, So it's like, what do and I know that, it's cool. And then it's one of those things. And I feel like society is at a point with a lot of things. And I'm sorry, I do think about these things where it's like, okay, do we try to salvage, resurrect the institutions that we have, or do we abandon them, let them collapse and build all new things? And I personally lean more towards the camp of abandon these old institutions and we have to build new things. And that's why I'm absolutely happy to be part of, MeatRx and other organizations that, can coach, that can bring this message to people, because we don't have 2 decades to wait for these organizations to catch up, to fight against the money. There's me and Sean Baker.
Yay. So this is your coaching page. And I totally hear you that I think I agree. It's clear these things aren't working, and that's why it's nice to have these other forums that you kind of participate in, all of the ones that I know of. So, you've got the MeatRx, and then you co-lead the
Conquering Chronic Pain. I figure I'm qualified. So not only was there the accident where there's those pictures, but 6 months after that accident, I'm crossing the street walking and I get hit by a car. So I've been in quarantine since 2019 because in March of 2019, there's that accident. I'm in physical therapy, car destroyed, blah, 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 body destroyed. Then in July of 2019, back in physical therapy because I'm run over by a car and have to rebuild myself again after just doing physical therapy. So I did 2 stints of physical therapy in a year of like 6 month.
And how different was it being on carnivore? Because the second accident, you were already carnivore, right? So how was it?
Yes.
Different?
I felt it really, really helped with the recovery. And that's why if you hear it talked around on our podcast, carnivore durable, that's where that comes from, because of me being hit by that car while being carnivore. I didn't break any bones.
There's your t-shirt. Carnivore durable.
Carnivore durable, yeah.
Carnivore lives.
Right. And so, I had a severely bruised shoulder, which I thought I tore the rotator cuff, but, now I get it. I was hit at 20 miles per hour, 25 miles per hour. I flew up and I landed on the ground, I literally went up in the air when she hit me. It's not, do not recommend. I'm a big believer in waiting till the little guy on the crosswalk, is waving at you, then cross. None of this just hand stuff. No, you know what I mean? And so, I really think it did help. Physical therapy, I think, went smoother. My chiropractor at the time, which I know there's debates about chiropractic or whatever, but he was keto, so that was kind of neat. It's hard to tell. It still sucked. I still took some muscle relaxers for a while. It was still a bummer. I still couldn't walk for a week, basically. But I mean, just we have to kind of assume that recovery would have been more difficult had I not been on the carnivore diet. Not to mention still struggling with migraines. Still, I could have been hit by a car, migraines, sinus infections, carpal tunnel. Who knows what else I would have grabbed? IBS, GERD from the migraine medication, right? So, if nothing else, eliminating all those other problems, or at least greatly diminishing them, made the recovery from the second, car accident or me accident go a lot smoother.
Wow. So I'm just thinking now, I mean, I think your story is so compelling, and I know that, based on your profession, you can't really, prescribe, a way of eating. But do you have you noticed that people, are you able to at least share your story where then if they want to pursue coaching with you through MeatRx, they can, or is that some sort of conflict with your, like, you can't even mention or share your own personal recovery and healing?
So on the MeatRx side, well, let's face it, at the end of the day, it only matters if you get reported, right?
Right.
And people on MeatRx, they're there for a reason and they're seeing me for a reason. Now, my style of coaching is in a way, I might, because I blend the two.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so so my style of coaching, I do talk probably, and again, I don't know about other coaches too much, but I do focus a lot on the mental, social, emotional aspects of the carnivore diet. Because addiction, getting through it, getting through those times, it's the emotional eating, it's dealing with the voices in your head, it's the anxiety of it's been it's day 68 and I still don't feel amazing, you know what I mean? And just,
Right.
okay, well, how's your mood, how's your energy, are you tracking, okay, yeah, you're not losing weight, but look at these things. What else is getting better? Is there anything else that is getting better? Because we're so used to being stuck in the negative mode and the negative self-talk and the automatic negative thoughts that oftentimes people's recovery as they're beginning the carnivore diet is not that it's negligible, but if you're not looking for it, you'll miss it.
Right.
And I feel like that's the people that get anxious, frustrated, and end up, quitting. Is they're just, they can't help but be like, oh, this is, because everything else has failed them, right? So it makes sense that this will also fail them. That there's something different about you or I. There's something different about all those stories. There's something different about Sean, which there's a lot about Sean that's different. Okay, he's a foot taller than me. Let's begin. Um, but my message is a part of me is happy that I'm not like ripped or shredded or anything like that. I look pretty normal, I'm kind of thin, I'm not ripped or anything like that. I mean, I still look like the kind of person that's more likely to sit down and play Yu-Gi-Oh with you rather than hit up the gym with you, right?
Yeah.
And so that people look at me and they're like, hopefully it bridges that gap a little bit, that they're like, okay, he did it, and especially my history, of all the antibiotics and all the other stuff, hopefully there's a little bit of grounding there that makes it practical for them, and
yeah, I felt so much alignment with you when we've talked about these themes, because I mean, really, that's one of the main things about Confident Carnivore, is that it's the mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of things. And yes, they are interconnected to the physical part and your physical health and healing. But like you said, a lot of it is just having a lifetime, a history of anxiety or depression or other mental illness, having no self-worth, having this very negative outlook, that even though your health has led you to carnivore because everything else failed you, if you don't have the mental wherewithal or the belief that you're worth committing, you won't get there. And so I feel like you and I, I'm the same. It's like I was never significantly overweight or anything, but I suffered a lot, physically and mentally. And I think there's just a lot of parallels as well with, you and Emily Penton. I mean, that moment where you said that it's the same for her. Like the moment you discovered carnivore, it was actually like your worst, your lowest. You got freaking hit by a car or in a car accident. And she had her, where she discovered she had MS and had to go into the hospital. And it's like, you both somehow had some sort of deeper knowing or faith without feeling any gain yet. Like you just did it. Like, and it's like everything else had failed you. And yet you had this sort of trust that there's something I need to keep doing it. And to me, that's like, what was that thing that like clicked in for both of you,
I think it's nothing else to lose. And compared to spending $150 a month on vitamins, doctor visits, the organic food, all that stuff, carnivore's cheap. It's a cheap try if you're doing all that or spending who knows how much on medications or whatever. It's actually a low effort. Cooking time is near zip, right? So it's actually a low effort, low risk, high reward, right?
Right. Yeah.
It actually
doesn't even cook her meat.
Exactly. Which is why I think actually cooking and eating meat is the easiest part of it. I think. I have, I hear people now. There's a few people that have struggled with that, but for the most part, people can cook a steak and eat it. It's 4 minutes each side with some butter, right?
Right.
People can drink water. It's okay. How do I deal with my husband's not on this diet? I'm trying to feed my kids. We still got cookies in the house. They have plants. It's all that stuff. Oh, I go to work and I'm getting judged there. I go try to sleep at night and my mind's screaming at me that this isn't going to work. You're still a failure. I hate my life. All those thoughts are still there. Is this really going to work? The anxiety. I get on the scale and it's still, 305 or whatever it is,
Right.
that I get it. That drains on you. And I do tell people that this diet is, or this lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's not a weight loss diet. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's putting your health above all things. That it is religious in that it does take faith. It really, really does, because it is unseen. Your transformation is not going to be the same as mine. It's not going to be on the same timetable. It's not going to come in the same way. But I have faith that you will transform. And that is the message I try to tell people is got to have faith. And I talk a lot about carnivore propaganda. And my plot to you jumping on the carnivore propaganda gang, because me beginning, I didn't, I was even before MeatRx. I didn't know zero carb Zen or any of that stuff either, but I knew Michaela Peterson. I started watching carnivore podcasts and just religiously listening to carnivore podcasts and just, okay, just learning as much as I can. That's also what kept me going, is just jumping into the literature, jumping into the podcast. I wasn't even a part of any carnivore Facebook groups. I think I just saw one Sean video by chance because, the recommended,
Right.
and he's talking about MeatRx and becoming a MeatRx coach. And by that point, I was already like 6 months carnivore. So I've been a MeatRx carnivore coach since MeatRx started, essentially.
Wow.
I was coach number, I think, 36.
Wow.
To actually be certified. Anyway, and yeah, so those that are in the beginning, listen to as many carnivore podcasts as you can. Watch as many carnivore YouTube videos, because that will be, or that's I believe will help you be a driving force of inspiration, because you feel alone, you feel like it's not going to work, everything else has failed you. You still have, your mental health symptoms. You still haven't experienced any weight loss. You feel crazy because no one else is eating this with you. You have no one to relate to. I get it, but there is light. And listen, it might take 3 months. It might take you 6 months. It might take you a year. It might take you 2 years, might take you 3 years. Okay. Um, and it sounds lame to just be like, hang in there, but really hang in there
Yeah.
because I haven't seen this not work. Now there's a few stories here and there that are off, that are
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Now there is troubleshooting, don't get me wrong, but that's for very, very specific issues, it seems, and this is why there is the coaching though. This is why you can contact us
When it's
because
so inexpensive, I think that just the fact that you can book a session for $17.99, it's like it really is just giving it away. I mean, what have you got to lose? Like you're saying, I mean, you pay more than $17.99 for one crappy bottle of any kind of generic brand supplement, right?
and listen, if you're in a meeting with me, and a lot of the coaches are like this, Raymond's like this, and you bring up an issue, we will pretty much coach you for free right there. You hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, what have you. I'm always free to answer questions. Most of us are,
Well, that's what I love about, let's go ahead and promote, Tom's channel, because I feel like I wish I had known about this channel back when I was starting out. I mean, you guys, like you said, you do your religious, Sunday meeting where you talk all of the topics and you're literally giving away. I mean, I just listened to the one you guys did about the carnivore diet is even more effective than keto. And I was thinking, man, if I had heard this back when we were like thinking we were trying to do like keto, we didn't know what was keto, what was paleo, and everyone just throws those words around. And I listened to this, and I was like, oh, it's brilliant because it's like a lot of, longer term carnivores and coaches like you and, Raymond. And I guess Tom was a coach as well, right? Wasn't
he
Tom?
still coaches. Tom still coaches. He's still friends with Sean. Anyway, it's a small drama thing, but it's totally squashed anyway.
But I mean, and Emily's a coach as well. And I think
Right.
just getting to hear, and then Austin, comes on, as you say, and it's like you're really getting expert coaching and like covering all of your questions and topics. Just you can watch one every week.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what you're saying about people just like immersing themselves, because some people have said that to me just about, because I was like, well, what is Confident Carnivore going to add? Because you've got Carnivore Cast, you've got Tom's channel, you have MeatRx, you have all these different channels offering different views of carnivore. And I think
My Zero Carb Life. Hey Kelly
yeah,
Hogan, come talk to us. We love you, girl.
We just saw Kelly today. She was on Bella, we've got Steak and Butter Gal. So and so here's the Meat Mosaic Instagram. So I think that's a fun. But I think what I realized, we interviewed Jackie Jones and she was saying the different people speak to you differently, right? It's like you have to pick whose voice resonates the most with you and just then dive into those people so that you don't get overwhelmed, right? So I think that's the nice thing is that, what you were, and some of the earlier carnivores, they didn't really have that much support, they didn't have resources. They were just like, okay, I'll just try this because I don't have anything else to try, right?
They had the bear. I mean, this is a fantastic book right here.
Yeah,
Obviously.
won, right?
I won. Yes, I did win. Thank you. 3.5 Asians.
I love it.
I will make my way on that show. Here, I swear.
Oh, we want you, Justin.
Okay, awesome.
You. Actually, I think we want Tom. We want you, everybody. We would have a great time with you, no doubt. So Justin, this has been fantastic. I knew.
Yay.
And I had a little coffee today, so I knew you were going to be extra.
I'm extra. Exactly. So that's the thing too. I was never a coffee drinker until carnivore. I was the tea drinker. I always had to have my green tea or my oolong teas. Now I'm a coffee drinker. Not really. It's much my treat. Just like I feel like having a coffee. I'll go have a coffee. Yeah, why not?
I'm the same. I didn't start drinking coffee till I was doing buttered coffee. I think we're kind of twinsies in a lot of ways. So, hey, Justin, can you speak a bit about some of your projects that you want, like some of your the work that you want to do in the carnivore space?
Yeah, I mean, still, interviews, all this stuff is really cool, but I'm a big psychology, philosophy, society, implication, big meta topic guy, actually. And so the channel that I really, really want to start would be called Carnivore and Philosophy. And I would really love to do actually a call-in show where people call in, tell me like what they're struggling with, whether it's carnivore or socially or mental health or this or that. And I take them through, from a philosophical perspective, all the way through, a diet perspective. And because I believe philosophy and carnivory, those two things can solve any problem in your life. And I will stake that as saying that, and I want to prove that.
I love that. You're the perfect person for it. You've already got your headset. Remember Loveline? Remember the
Right, exactly. So I grew up listening to all those shows, and I still listen to a lot of that stuff now, And so Dr. Drew is like kind of one of my heroes and one of the main reasons why I got into psychotherapy,
Wow. You're
And so,
perfect for this. Why have we not discussed this? I'm everybody's Asian agent now, Raymond, Tom, Bella. So why have we not discussed this and started you on a plan to get this implemented?
right. And, I wouldn't put it on YouTube. It would be, more on some of the, because, I'm a big person in like alternative platforms, Bitcoin, all that stuff, which is why I have the Carnivore Mind page on minds.com. And so this you won't see on YouTube because I'm going to talk about things and say things that YouTube doesn't want you to talk about. I'm just putting that out there. And so it's going to be purely on alternative platforms. But yeah, I mean, if you want to help me get that started, my big goal is to actually open my own. Well, it would be like a school / I don't know if you'd call it like a rehab, like rehabilitation, but a teen center where people would stay 1 month to 3 months to a year, troubled teens, essentially, because I was a troubled teens. We haven't even gotten to my nose candy habit. That'll be the next podcast. So troubled teen, totally went through it for various reasons. And so the idea is to be, keto, meat-based nutrition with Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life being the foundation for the curriculum. And there would be, a gym and, obviously this is like a $2 million, $4 million idea. And I would have scholarships and I've got it planned out in my head. I just have to actually go and, write it out and everything. And that is my absolute dream, is to open a teen and family center. And even doing, rescue calls to families,
Wow.
to doing diet and everything from the ground up. So those are big ideas. Hopefully one or a couple of them will be launched, but we'll see. Anyone that wants to be a financial backer, if you hear this and you're like, I want to throw money at that, I will make it worth every dollar, I live in Missouri, so my living costs personally are very low.
And I can think of so many people who just from our, group of carnivores who would want to be involved. We don't have the money to back you, but we want to be involved in the mission. And that's just brilliant because, I too came to carnivore through Jordan Peterson's book, and I know Brett Lloyd as well. And it dovetails so perfectly, just his whole philosophy with this lifestyle. So I think it's totally brilliant. I think you could totally do both of those, especially the love line one. You already look like we could just have someone call in right now.
Yeah, be great. You can be like, okay, we got a caller on the line, press 2.
I want to be the person who tells you like the calls on the line.
Great.
Oh my gosh, Justin, I feel like we could literally talk forever.
Oh yeah.
But thank you so much for.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. I was looking forward to it. I hope I was extra.
You were extra. Like you couldn't be more extra. And we'll get you your shirt.
Yay.
And so then you can rock our shirt too, not just Kelly's. I love Kelly's too. So Justin, you are delightful and amazing and just extraordinary. I think what you've been through and how, and just you're like larger than life. And it's like you can feel that this was always there, even in
Right.
like decades of suffering and being buried under so much pain and misery. So you're just like a shining bright light, and I can't wait to see you on Sunday for
Cool.
our carnivore roundtable, right?
Right. I'll be there.
Okay, Jesse, you take good care.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you next time.
Like, subscribe, like all the things. Throw money at Janice. Throw money at me. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. Yeah.
All right, Justin, we'll see you next time. Bye.